listening to The Sizzle on Iron Skillet Radio and Iron Skillet Television.
Wow, bro. That's crazy. That's so love, bro.
Oh, it's hot, baby. Hot. Woo! Hot fire. You know who it is. You know what it is. It's The Sizzle in the building. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time that we give you the hottest fire in the 219. We are The Sizzle here on WGVE 88.7 FM. Jay, how are you doing today?
Man, I've been feeling sizzly lately because I put on my long undies right on July 3rd. And it's been a little warm out here lately, so I'm not really sure what we got going. Usually we got snow and stuff going on by this time. What's happening?
Well, I mean, I'll take it anywhere it goes. No snow, little snow, big snow, any snow. I'll just take it and it's good. I just, we're going to just have one of these great days today where we are excited and we are just involved and we are thankful. How about that? Can we say that? We are thankful. It's one of our thankful days.
Every day I think we need to be thankful. We live in this great country that people take for granted. We don't have bombs falling from the sky right now. For the most part, in the United States, people can find something to eat. I know I'm part of that process every Saturday. During out the week also that we fed 61 families last Saturday. Today we were off because of this special holiday. But the United States is very unique in the world because of it's a collection of men and women from different varied backgrounds who all got here from different means. Some people came in voluntarily. Some people came looking for hope, back in the 1600s, and other people were brought against their will. But it's become a huge melting pot here. And when Old Glory flies, there's something about the United States of America that will pull people together because we know there have been men and women who have sacrificed for us to be living this, what we call it, in democracy. This has been an experiment. And as a young country that we are compared to a lot of other countries out here, we've been doing okay.
Well, not only have we been doing okay, we're doing great right now, because if you don't know and you just turned your dial or you just pushed your button and you hit it and now you're on 88.7 FM, welcome into The Sizzle. Thank you for listening, everyone. The Sizzle is the hottest talk show in the 219. We're here every Saturday from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and share The Sizzle 219 on every social media platform you're on, and wherever you get your favorite podcast, The Sizzle, we are there. We're here on Gary's Voice of Education, 88.7 FM.
I like my sizzle spread across bagel. Bagel, little sizzle on there, always tastes good.
It's going to be one of those days. Ladies and gentlemen, this is already starting out as one of those days where you get the hottest information. You get all the talk of the town. We discuss everything from sports to music to culture. And listen, if you want to reach out to us, make sure you call our voicemail bag, and that's at area code 219-885-9156. And you can leave your thoughts, your shouts out, your request. And you could also be featured on the show if you leave one of those hot messages and we like, man, that's a good one. But if you want to call into the show, when we open up the phone lines for you to call into the show line is 219-962-9483. That's 219-962-9483.
And you're not guaranteed to actually get on the show because I still have not figured out how to answer the phone correctly. But every once in a while, I pull it off and look like a pro.
Well, I mean, we do what we got to do. We'll just keep it moving. So that way, and if you can't get on the show, you can always still call our voicemail bag at 219-885-9156 and say, Jay Sizzle didn't even put me on. Girl, I was trying all night to get on, but he didn't even put me on the show.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
But
I'm getting better now.
God bless you.
And, you know, that's what everybody says. That sounds like, you ever be in church and people up there trying to sing a song and it sounds like screeching cats. And the people get up there, bless her heart. You know what I say? Bless her heart means, ooh, that child's tearing it up there in a bad way.
You know, it's funny. I saw a video earlier of a dog that was harmonizing to his owner's keys on the piano.
Oh.
And it made me think of some of the more endearing brothers and sisters who have tried to get on the mic in church, and you just pray for them. And you're just happy they're up there, but you're hoping that the Lord won't strike you down for the thoughts that you've been thinking the whole time.
Have you ever really had that point in time where you're just sitting there and you're going, ooh, who cousin is this they let up here sing? Because you know ain't nobody in their right mind, ain't no choir director out there let that person go up there and sing that solo.
Can you just take them off? Kind of like Sandman when he would come into the Apollo. Like if it gets bad enough, can you just get the hook and just pull them out?
I have seen people on that B3 organ start playing that bad boy. You know, when the B3 starts going,
and just play you off.
Next thing you know, the Shekinah glory then fell, and Big Pookie then came out there and started singing his solo.
Well, it's one of those days. It's one of those ones. But I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we have someone in the studio, but she won't get on the mic. But everybody who knows she was just on the mic.
She's been on the mic for 5 hours.
But we still needed to talk because we're getting ready to talk about something very special.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a lot about Veterans Day for the next 30 minutes. We're going to have a conversation about Veterans Day.
So important.
And its importance and everything the impact that it's had. And, Jay, I think it's a really important time to talk about it, be it that America is not in war, but they are actively engaged in conflict around the country, around the world.
Yeah, the United States is sort of in a proxy war all the time. Mm-hmm. We have 800 military bases all around the world, and one of the only few countries that have reached to every point on the globe, literally. And the only reason why they're able to have that is of the men and women who are in the United States military. And this is a voluntary fighting force. I just did an event. Yesterday played music for the event yesterday and provided sound reinforcement for Colonel Liggins here at the Gary Area Career Center. He had a number of veterans came in. They provided haircuts and provided lunch for them, and we've had music, and I was back there playing, going from the 50s and 60s and 70s, taking them back in the day. Mm-hmm. But you see, we had one gentleman come up and was talking to the young cadets. We had a number of cadets that were there from the West Side Leadership ROTC program. And I didn't know it was that many young people in the ROTC program. It was 25 or 30 young people there who were in that ROTC program, dressed sharp. Let me tell you, sharp as any graduating class of anything you've seen out there. They were dressed sharp, and they were in military formation, and you could just see the pride that they had and how hard they worked. But we had one gentleman go up there, and he talked about when he came back from Vietnam, and they weren't looked at in such a favorable way. But he says now, as the years went by, now they're being viewed as heroes. And this is the reason why Veterans Day is so important, because you have a lot of men who in those days lost loved ones there. And when I mean loved ones, brothers in arms, that becomes a family out there when you're out in the bush or flying or on a ship or something like that. And inevitably, those young men who don't make it back home give up two lives. First, the young life that they had, and secondly, the life that they would have lived. And so a lot of these veterans were talking about how they needed to make sure that they lived good lives to honor those who had fallen. So it was a moving moment there, and I think for a lot of veterans, those of us, and I did not serve in the military, but those of us who have not been part of that brotherhood, we don't really understand the scope of the sacrifice. And so it's very important on this day. And I know we were going to talk about this earlier, certain verbiage of the veterans. I know you're going to talk about that later on. would rather you not say on this day. But we just really have to salute those who have given the greatest sacrifice. And the sacrifice, I believe in the Bible tells us that if you to sacrifice oneself for your brother is the greatest gift that you can give. And the reason why we sleep well at night with the covers pulled up tight and no bombs are falling on our heads because we have people sitting on the wall out there, and we just want the people who volunteered to sit on the wall. And I think that's a thing we need to remember.
Let me say this also for those of you who are listening. If at any point you know someone or you're struggling within a crisis, please feel free to call or text 988. It is a crisis hotline, but it's not a hotline. It is a lifeline for you. That is text or call 988. And there you can get help. And that comes from our good friends and making sure that our mental health is well, and making sure you will hear promos throughout the show tonight where we'll talk about mental health and those who are experiencing crisis. This is a serious need and a serious issue. But Jay, one of the bigger things that we'll talk about today is not only was Veterans Day one to be celebrated in the memory of and to commemorate those sacrifices made by soldiers and their families across the nation and across the world. President Biden has said that in this time of need, in this moment, not only do veterans need to be compensated, but they need to be acknowledged, and we owe a debt of gratitude to them. So President Biden said Saturday afternoon, we owe you. We owe you not just for keeping the flame of freedom burning, but during the darkest moments for preserving the communities, even after they hung up their uniforms, for inspiring the next generation to serve. And now I'll say this, even though we're talking about the 105th anniversary of the end of the World War I, this is still a message that endures. It is one that is lasting, and one that we must acknowledge those sacrifices that not only soldiers made, but their families also that served.
Yeah.
And this is not a holiday where in the sense you think gifts, presents. This is a remembrance from all those who serve active duty from one station to another, had sleepless nights, those who were deployed either locally or overseas. This is a time to remember and to give thanks for their service. So, Jay, and shout out to Colonel Ligon and all that they have done and his people. He's been working with veterans for many years.
I tell you.
Many years. A lot of men have been able to go to the VA Center here located in Gary that Colonel Ligon always continually makes sure that veterans are served, and he makes sure that their needs and issues are brought to the forefront.
And he also brings so many good people. You have membership, people from the Buffalo Soldiers were there. Here's the whole thing about it. Colonel Liggins did a great job this weekend at the Gary Area Career Center. It was putting on, we had the 13 folds of the flag. We played Echo Taps. We had so many people that were there that really enjoyed themselves. The culinary department fed the veterans there a really wonderful meal. We had our barbering college was there, and they were there cutting hair and giving haircuts, and they were taking blood pressures there from the nursing students. There's so many things, and the one veteran came up to me, and all he said was, "Thank you. We really appreciate everything that you did." Dr. Esther Goods was there, which was wonderful. She enjoyed herself. She is one of those people. She is very hands-on in the district, and she comes down to literally every event I've been at, Dr. Goods shows up at. And she's really hands-on and just wants to make sure everything's top-notch. So we were so excited about that. But everything went great. It was just wonderful, and it was a fun time. There's a lot of work putting on those type of events. People don't know. Thank you, Colonel Liggins, for all the effort, and especially all from the ROTC and everybody else, first sergeants and everybody else who was all part of it. So it all went really well.
Well, once we get a chance every once in a while to do something special, we also get a chance to sometimes just have a moment of conversation and talk. And one of the things we want to do right now is we want to bring someone into this conversation who has given their service, who has sacrificed, who has gone through those times and had the opportunity to serve their country and is a proud veteran. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Willie, the faithful and true Brown. Thank you for coming in. And on short notice,
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
is there something as far as what you've seen lately when it comes to service individuals that you would like done differently, or something that you would like to change in the way that we honor and respect veterans throughout the country?
Well, I mean, actually, I've seen over the years improvement and more recognition in honor of veterans since I got out in 2000. So between 2000 and now, it's almost like been an uptick of more recognition and more honor than it was when I first got out.
Well, let's walk the listeners through quickly so that they understand what your journey has been and how your travels, especially for those young listeners who are listening and wonder what it is to be in the service and what does it mean to serve. How did you why was going into the service important for you?
Well, actually, I had a friend from the old neighborhood who had been in the Marines, and he kind of hyped me up with he really gave me an idea. I didn't realize that at the time, but he really was giving me he painted this picture of like a sniper or a scout. So I went in wanting to learn, skills of being a sniper. That was my whole motivation. I would, I was 21, 20 years old at the time, and so I started noticing the demeanor, the bearing of Marines, and it just went from there. It just kind of skyrocketed from there. It's like I became more and more interested. Like, this is something I would like to do.
So talk a little bit about your when you're in service and just the brotherhood that's created. We know that you obviously you went to the Marine Corps.
Yes.
So when you first entered through Paris Island there, you went through those doors. Can you talk about the transformation that went from the time you went in, you put your feet on the yellow footsteps out there right outside the bus, and next thing you know, you're those doors swing open, and you go into a whole new life that you weren't expecting. Talk a little bit about that and how that transformation helped you become a better man.
Well, let me clarify. There's two. We got the East Coast and the West Coast.
Okay.
The East Coast is Paris Island. The West Coast is San Diego.
Oh, you in San Diego?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm just guessing you over here at Paris Island.
We call Hollywood Marines, we went to San Diego. But, I mean, we got there, and we didn't, you don't go to sleep that first day. They keep you up, they teach you how to march, and they hollering. I was, like, just totally, like, shocked, like, we packing out, they're giving us our clothes.
Yeah.
We putting our clothes in the bag, and like, it's kind of hush, and then every now and then, hurry up, out of nowhere, it's like you just get this like shock go through your body. Then we got so you learning how to march. They quickly teach you how to march. They put you in a platoon, and then you get like a couple of days later, you get picked up by your real drill instructors. That's
your real DI.
Yeah, that's going to be with you for the rest of the time.
Okay.
And so,
do you still remember your DI's name?
Senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Naughty.
There is never a time that I ask a veteran, do you remember their DI name, and they give the whole entire name.
I remember he was Jamaican.
Yeah.
And it was a Staff Sergeant Hamilton. He like picked on me most of the time. That's the only reason why I remember him. And there were two other ones I can't even remember their names.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about as we know you got through boot camp and you came on the other side of it. Can you talk a little bit just about service in the Corps and what type of experience was that for you? What kind of change did it have prior to the Corps, and then once you were in the Corps, how did it change you?
Well, prior to the Corps, I mean, I didn't have no, I hate to say it, but I kind of didn't have no sense of direction or organization or I didn't have no bearing, you know, I didn't have that confidence that they instill in you. You know, like I might not been able to hold eye contact, or I might have been more easily intimidated before I went in, you know. But in boot camp, you know, and definitely, you know, by the time you get out, or after you've done 2 or 3 years or whatever, by the time you get out of boot camp, you got it's like a surreal high confidence, almost arrogance. I mean, they drilling in you, or they call it, some people say we brainwashed that we're the elite, even among the other branches of service, you know. But you know, you definitely are. You're instilled with very high confidence. They teaching you combat skills. They teaching you, you know, we could be anywhere in the world in 3 days. We do land, air, and sea, you know.
Yeah.
And they give you the history of all these battles, and how highly respected we are in the world, and we have to watch ourselves, like in the Middle East, you know.
Yeah.
Like we got enemies, you know. Like you're a Marine 24/7.
Yeah.
So when you take the uniform off at the end of the day, you still have to be vigilant and aware of your surroundings, and you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, we've seen a number of people I talked to had similar experience, that they came in not fully understanding where they were going to go in life, and then all of a sudden they came out on the other side of it and they were laser focused. They understood how to motivate themselves to get things done, and I know you have been, you know, have done very well for yourself as a man and as a son. I see you know, you constantly hear and respect you treat your mom with, and you making sure she is taken care of, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think a lot of that comes from being raised right, number one, and number two is that honor that the Marine Corps instills in you. And I think as a man, that's where you're tested at. You know, it's not doing the things that everybody sees, it's doing the things that people don't see. And just want to say that is one of these things that we see with a lot of veterans, the honor that they carry themselves with, the honor that they have to the flag. I know yesterday at a veterans event, there were some young people there, new ROTC. I don't know if they're cadets. I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but they were trying to learn to fold the flag. Oh. And they were not folding the flag. They were giving it a good effort, but there's a certain reverence that should be adhered to when you're folding the flag. And a veteran there or two, when he saw that they were not in the proper mindset, made sure in a quick manner that he understood what that flag meant and how important it was to those gentlemen that are there, and make sure that flag does not touch that ground. We know that's the one thing that cannot happen. And so the young people, what I thought it was really a beautiful thing, though, you saw the young people in their ROTC uniforms going up and talking to veterans who had combat veterans who had been in Vietnam and things like that. And you see the old masters, you know, giving the young people who had 30 plus years in the military, and talking to young people who are aspiring to go into the military, and you just see that transfer of a mantle, basically. That's the way I'm thinking about it. You saw the young people standing there just listening to what he was saying, because he had so much to say. Talk a little bit about that as you got out in 2000, so now you're talking some 20 plus odd years after that fact. Can you talk a little bit about how, as you're talking to young people, those things you learned over in San Diego, can you talk a little bit about that, and how you try to instill some of these things in some of the kids that you talk to?
Well, I mean, I try to, you know, it's funny. I used to drive school buses before I started driving 18-wheelers, and so
you definitely need military experience if you're driving school buses.
But you know, I tried to instilling them, a sense of respecting, respect for others, respect for authority, and try to have some, some structure. If I see them, like I had, I just thought, I don't know why I thought about this, but I had one student that was, talking about dealing drugs, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm like, that's like the NFL or being a rapper, that's like 1 in a million chance of being successful.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know no retired drug dealers.
Yeah.
So, I would try to get them, a sense of, like I say, respect for others, respect for authority, and have some sense of structure, like being on time and, having a plan, like, or a skill or a trade, like by the time they, get out of high school, what are they, I might have those type of conversations, with, let me say this too about the other branches, yeah. And my mother was in the Air Force.
Yeah, she's you about if you don't mention this, if you don't talk about up and away here in a minute. Yeah.
But I have a very high level of respect for like Vietnam, World War I, World War II veterans. But also I saw a movie called U-571. It's about the Navy.
Yeah.
After seeing that movie, it changed my perspective. Like I have respect for the other branches. Because at the end of the day, we're all working on the same team.
Oh, absolutely.
If like Army Scouts, Army Rangers, Army Combat Engineers, I almost treat them I hate to say it, but I almost treat them like they're Marines. Yeah. I know I might get in trouble for that, but
we have each one of these branches have a part in the total defense of the United States, and they all have the same creed to defend the United States of any attack, by foreign or domestic, and they know they take that pledge when they go into the Corps, and that's universal. As universal across any branch, and it's because of this pledge, this creed that they live by, that we're able to walk and really in the United States and never really think about that we're going to get invaded. Right, yeah. We don't think about bombs falling from the sky. We don't think about that here, and we sleep comfortably in our beds, knowing that they are out there. And I said that earlier. They're out there on that wall. And our volunteer force, people going in, and we have a lot of young people. I've talked to a number of young people talking about they're going to the military. And, and it's amazing when you see 18, 19-year-olds making that decision. And then, it's just really amazing.
I want to say something that we really don't notice with women in the armed forces. They not only give you your militaristic training, but they also give you charm school.
Oh,
a lot of people do not know that. Wow. But in order for you in the Air Force, for you to have military bearing, you had to have your poise. You had to know all your points that you had to know. But you also had to go to charm school because they wanted you to walk correctly, to know how to stoop and bend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And thought, actually prepared you for some skills when you left the armed forces where you were able to use them throughout life. But never would I have thought in a million years when I went in that part of the training would be charm school. I'm sure they didn't do that with the gentlemen, but they gave the women charm training. And I thought later on, as I grew older, I had an appreciation for them doing that.
Yeah, and it looks like they were trying to prepare you for time after the military. Mm-hmm. And we also said there's a certain bearing that you need to have, because when you're out there wearing that uniform, not only you're representing yourself, but you're representing that branch and the United States. But one thing I noticed about any of the branch boy, they all carry themselves in an upright manner when they're out there in their uniforms. We know we've heard of the little things that go on here, there, and everywhere, but they're always very proud of whatever branch they're in. And I think a lot of them have been prepared for later on in life, too, by the things that they learn. So, yeah, that's very important. And a lot of people wouldn't have known that.
And I also think that they teach something that they probably need to share with the school system. They make sure that you know to respect your elders, look after your children. I mean, they drill that into you like they do everything else.
Yeah.
But it's important that because we've lost a lot of that in our daily culture, where we need to maybe reach back and fetch it or see what they have to see if it'll work, in some of the things that we do.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of
Air Force is the best part.
yeah, yeah, and I love the pride there. Yeah, I think the military is not for everybody, but for those who decide that this is going to be a pathway for them, boy, it can really change your life because there's so many different ways that you can go in the military. You know, you don't have to necessarily sign up for combat. There's so many other things that you can learn to do. You can learn tech skills and learn skills, you know, how to take care of maintenance of vehicles. You can learn how maintenance of planes. You can learn logistics, computer science, so many things that you can learn inside there. And if you're ambitious enough, you can keep moving yourself forward. And I think that's one of the things that's really great with the military is that as a young person, if you make that choice, boy, if you really work it, you can work that to your advantage. And so on this day, this Veterans Day, I know my dad was a veteran in the Korean War. And what's interesting about a lot of veterans who've seen combat, very seldom do they come back and talk about it. You know, they don't talk about it too much. You know, they just come in the house and they live their lives, and they do. Because like I said, there was people there who lost 2 lives. They lost their first life of a young person, and then they lost the rest of their life that they would have lived. They lost the wife and the grandkids and all that when they didn't come home. And so I think veterans being able and willing to give that type of sacrifice, especially going from a common citizen into the military, I think that's not only they should be respected, but they also should be given honor, because not everybody can do it. And I think a lot of times they are the silent people because they really don't come. You're not out in the forefront. Very seldom. I can't remember the last time I saw a convoy driving down the street, you know, here in the United States. Every once in a while we used to see them on 80. They were moving vehicles from one place over. You see the Army going up and down or whoever it was. But very seldom do you see people in the military. But, if something should jump off, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna get ugly real quick, you know. And that is the beauty about this service here. That is a volunteer force now, and people that would give such a sacrifice, you know. And I really just want to give you honor on you doing that as a young person. Thinking, you know what, I see with that guy, I saw you the bearing and the honor that they have, and you decided that's what you wanted to be, right. And you went in there and had at it. You know, and that's very special. I really want to give you and all those who are like you the honor that's due. And I think these other 363 days out of the year, if you see a veteran out here, that, I always thank them for their service. You know, when I see them out, you know, you see a lot, especially a lot of the older gentlemen, they'll be wearing their hats and things like that. And just say thank you for your service, because, for some of them got pressed into duty. You know, and they got drafted, and things were that way back in those days, and we never know. We don't know what's going on. You know, right now, we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. It hasn't looked this interesting in a long time since World War II. We have a lot of stuff going on out there, and a lot of people are rattling sabers right now, and so you're hoping that everything gets it back to where it needs to be. But we know that if something had to happen, that we have a military that's ready to go, and we'll defend this land, and the people of the United States will stand behind them, and if something ever would happen, something like that, and that's the beauty about this country. I don't care what you think about it, say about it, but we all live and stand and if necessary, give a great sacrifice to be under that flag, and everybody becomes an American when America gets attacked. We saw that, we've seen that on 9/11.
They said the same thing happened with Pearl Harbor.
Oh, Pearl Harbor, yeah, absolutely. I've read a number of things about Pearl, and there was such a vitriol against there, and that was one of the reasons why the bombs were released in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, just to let the world know and understand that the United States can and will use power if necessary. You know what I'm saying? And it was letting the world know that do not strike here, even though that was not in our continental borders. We wanted to let them know anywhere, don't care if it's Guam or wherever it is, if it's anywhere out there, the United States is going to defend their territories. And I think that's one of the reasons There are a number of reasons too why that thing. That'll be a whole nother story about why. You know? But yeah, so it's very interesting, and it's interesting right now politically where things are going. But we've been in interesting times before, you know, and so God willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll make it through this one, and you know we'll just keep going. So I really have enjoyed this conversation with you, my friend. Is there anything else that you wanted to let the people know, especially about, you want to say to other veterans out there who might be listening right now? Because we know a lot of people got their free slice of pie today, you know, a couple of things like that. But you got 363 other days to deal with things too. It's just something that you would like to say to your fellow veterans out there.
Well, thank you for your service. You know, we've come a long way. You know, we got free health care access. We got access to, you know, the mental health,
which is very important
support. And but you know, thank you for your service. We're all on the same team. You know? You know,
as your mom's staring at you from behind.
No matter what branch you're in, you know. But yeah, that's all. For some reason, that's all I can think.
Yeah,
of.
you know, and that's more than enough. You know, it's as I was talking to Greg earlier today, when we were talking about this. You know, Veterans Day is one of those days. I don't really consider this a holiday. You know, I consider this a day of remembrance. You know, and it's different than Memorial Day. It really is. Memorial Day, we honor those who have fallen, but this day is sort of, we honor those who survived. And honor those, you know what I'm saying? And I think that is important, too, because you have so many people who have come back from difficult situations and who have issues that are going on, and that camaraderie amongst them, no matter what branch you're in, is very important, because I think that's one of the things you learn quickly in the military, is that you are part of a team. Go ahead. You know,
I was thinking for those that are you know, young, thinking about joining up, I would say if you're pretty good academically, you get high scores. You know, make sure you you know, have in mind a certain career or a certain area, you know, you want to go into, and you know, insist on that's the job you want to the recruiter. The other thing is that you got 3 square meals. They give you 3 meals a day. They give you free room and board, so you don't pay no electric bills. You don't pay no rent.
Yeah.
If I had to do all over again, I would have saved all my money up, and I probably would had like $30,000 or $40,000 in the bank, because you know I spent most of my money back then, you know, on cigarettes and partying and all of that.
Well, you know, when you're a young guy or young person, and that check hits, you know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, you know, we all look back. When I was 20, you know, 25. Ooh, if I could go back in time, if I could jump in that Back to the Future? If I could jump back there and go back there, I'd have grabbed me up and and sling me down to the bank and look, put half that check away.
Exactly.
You don't need all this. You don't need that. Put this money over here. But you know, when you're young,
quit eating out at the restaurants all the time.
Well, you know, when you're immortal, when you're young, you're immortal. Right. You know what I'm saying? You don't think about time. You don't think about that time's going to pass. And then you look up, and then the many moons go by, and you go, "Whoa, where'd the time go?" Because your mind, you're still young, but when you get up out the chair, you know, all of a sudden you're not. You know, and I know you're a truck driver, so I know when you're out there on the road, jumping up in and out that truck on a regular basis, every once in a while, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I gotta get the Doan's pills," you know. You know, but that is the beauty about life. You know, we move on, and we learn. But also, too, if you're a young person, listen to your mentor, especially this mentor who just told you, hey, look, if you're going into the military, make sure you have an idea of what you're going to do. Number 2, don't go in there jacking around. You know, go in there and make sure, prepare for this test. This test is, people don't realize how important that test is when you get into the military, because that really dictates about where you're going to go. Yeah. You know, the physical side of it's important, but also, are you teachable? And if you are, do you have the ability? I'm going to tell you what, too, these young guys don't understand this. The military now is being run off these game controllers now. they're teaching them how to use these game controllers to fly drones and all different types of things. So if you have that skill set, they're looking for that skill set. And there's a lot of things. Now, we have a drone army out there. And now with AI coming on, now you see Dynamic Technologies and a couple other companies like that. You have robots out there that are on the military field. We don't talk a lot about that, but they're out there. And there's people that need to be able to control those. They're looking at they're going to have a mechanized army of robots out at some point. We see those with the they go out to sniff out bombs and explode bombs, or they go and search houses. Or I just saw a video the other day about drones being flown doing recon. Going in and with the heat-seeking cameras on them, finding out where the bad guys are before you get there, so you can start mapping out. Well, they need people to fly those drones. So if you have that skill set already, you're a Fortnite player, you're whatever these search converter shooting games. If you're one of those guys out there, you can channel through weapon systems fast. Well, you might be one of those candidates who can be put into one of those situations because it's a new front out there now. It's not as it used to be. We see a lot of, with the United States especially, you see a lot of new weaponry that has been produced, and it's almost keeping people off the battlefield now. And you're starting to see people they're relying on reconnaissance and satellites and everything else like that. And that's a way, because there's going to be satellites out here all the time. You got to get your phones updated every 2 months now or something. Beforehand your phone would just work. Now, are you all iPhone people?
No, I'm Android.
See, me too. See, Android's for grown people. And
she's iPhone.
Except for you. But you see, these systems, they just update so quickly. And military stays ahead of that type of thing. So there's plenty of space out there for you. If there's something that you want to go do, go make it work for yourself. G, it's been interesting today. I know we were talking earlier about Veterans Day, and you just had some points that you wanted to make, and it's been great that, he always finds guests. He is the guest finder.
Well, one of the things is, as we've talked about it, and we've talked about the service and the efforts that officers have put in and the sacrifices. One of the greatest things, and I have to give a shout out to my dads. We got to go down. My grandfather, who was in World War II, my birth father, who was in the Korean conflict, my dad, Pop, was in Vietnam. There are just so many veterans in our family. And one thing I can say about the Moorish, the melanated, the African American community, or Americans that are African, is that we have served, and we have served proudly, and we continue to serve.
I always say that if it wasn't for the Tuskegee Airmen, I don't think we would have won the World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And wait a minute, shout out to my godfather, Quentin P. Smith, one of the last of the Tuskegee Airmen in the history, not only here in Northwest Indiana, but around the world, but especially here. We've had a lot of servicemen. We've had great servicemen who've come out of here. And I have to give a big shout out to the ROTC programs. Those who know, I was in ROTC at Horace Mann, so Flashert, and all those who were there. I remember the discipline, the training, the time, everything that it taught, because it was everything you needed as not just a student going off to college, but that you needed as a man, that you needed as a father, that you needed to be a good employee, that you needed to be a good employer. Some of those traits, some of those qualities, those were the things that really, it was cemented because of those men who had served.
G, and I think the thing that you just said, people, if you have a good military record, that gives you a really one-up on people hiring you, because they know that you are disciplined. They know that you can take orders, and they love to have people like that in the service. And so, it's there's so many positives that come from having military service.
And so, as we get ready to wrap, one of the things is we just want to bring in people. We always want to give our guests something a little different, something that they haven't had before. But, you know, when it comes to you, Mr. Faithful and True, and that's another conversation. We'll have that another day. We'll sit down and chop it up about some of your political aspirations, what you think about the world, and as things are going on. One of the things I'm going to round back to something Jay asked you earlier. Is there any other advice that you would give young people who are looking to the service right now as a career option or a life option as they move forward?
Pretty much. There's the only other thing I think of was I wish somebody had told me about the difference between being enlisted and being an officer. Yeah, because I didn't find out about it until after I got in, and I'm like,
okay, let's talk about that. We got a few minutes. We can talk about it.
I mean, to be an officer though, it's like you got to have a bachelor's degree or be willing to go through ROTC and get commissioned as an officer. Where you know, I guess your education is paid for, but you give so much time to the military. Like say, I think like they give you like 10 years. Like you have to make, but the other thing about that is though, you have to make I don't know about the other branches, but in the Marines, you have to make a major by the time 10 years go by, or they pretty much show you the door. But yeah, you can be an attorney or be, you know, go to school and let them pay for your education, but you know, you go in as an officer, you're in leadership. You become the commanding officer or the executive officer, which is like the assistant of the unit, and eventually, you know, go up the ranks till you get to general. But you start off as a lieutenant, whereas on the enlisted side, you start off as a private, and you get up to sergeant and sergeant major. And that's like the highest you can go. And the officers make more money too, as well. And they got better living quarters.
Well, now that's important. When you talk about living quarters, that's something that's important because I want to have the best because I need to stretch out in my king size bed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Man, we were 2 or 3 of us in one room.
Well, all you need is
as a private.
You need is a crust in a corner somewhere, sir. You're good to go. That's all. You weren't in the room anytime. Well, no, that's right. Your mom's here. But no, man. When you're young, you're out doing your thing. I know you do. Over there, sitting there, not talking on the mic. I know you do. I know, but I really want to always give respect to veterans and people who serve, because to me, even though I did not serve, I was from a family that served, and their service, in many ways, as my dad used to say to me, was so that I did not have to serve and that I could find another way to provide a service to my country. And that's why I went into education, and that's why you learn to uplift young people and you mentor them and you teach them. But it's one of those things where I really think we have a deficit in young people who are now giving their time in service. And as you said, with the young people on the bus, I see it with young people every day. I see it with young people when you pull up to McDonald's. There's this lack of camaraderie. There's a lack of morality. There's a lack of sensibility in some of the things they do. And these are all things you learn a part of. And I have to give a shout out to Major Ramey he was at Maryville High School. I'll give you a quick story. So my son was in ROTC, and Malik decided that ROTC was fun time. I don't know why he thought it was the funnest thing and that Major Ramey was the most hilarious person in the world. And one day I was in Sam's and I happened to walk through and Major Ramey was there and he's like, may I talk to you for a second? I want to talk about your son Malik. And I was like, nope, I don't know him, sir. I don't know who you're talking about. He's the tall one. He was like, when he's in the room, and I am going to teach him. And my son thought it was funny when I got home. I said, I had a conversation with Major Ramey. He was like, oh, Dad, you know. I said, I think it's going to be a little bit different for you tomorrow when you walk into class. And so when he got back home the next day, he was like, oh, my God, we ran, and we ran, and we ran. I said, how fun was that for you? I said, son, you're going to learn. And from that point on, he took that class extremely serious. Now, his friends did not, and then some of them were put out the class. But that's a whole different story. But it was something that taught him. And to this day, there's a way he holds himself. There's a way he walks and talks. He used to have really pride and honor when he would put on his uniform. And he would be in dress, and he'd have to polish his shoes. And we sat, and he would, we really went through how to spit shine shoes and make sure his medals were all ready, and he was ready for inspection. And he was so proud. When he would leave in the morning and get on the bus, he was proud to have his uniform on. And it's just something, we don't see as much with young people, and I'd like to see more of it.
Talking about that point, when the young people were over at ROTC, the ROTC cadets were over at the Gary Area Career Center yesterday. You know what you did not see? You did not see, do they call them blouses? Is that what it is in the military? When they have their dress uniforms on? No, yes, maybe not. Well, anyway, they didn't have
Sir, this is not a episode of shirts versus blouses.
We weren't going there, sir. But I know.
This is not skins
we weren't
versus
going there,
blouses, sir. I don't know what you're trying to do.
We weren't going
here.
there, sir. But anyway, what you did not see was that they were not out of uniform. That the top buttons weren't buttoned. That and they were there for a good long while. I mean, they were there for 2.5, 3 straight hours. And time after that, and they were not out of uniform. I mean, things weren't unbuttoned, buttons weren't unbuttoned. They were looking. They came in the door looking sharp, and they left out looking sharp. So it was a really cool thing to see that impact that the military has already had on young people who are just in the ROTC programs, and not say just, but who are in the ROTC programs over at Westside Leadership Academy, which is very important.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap because, we're going to give the people some music. And later on in the show, we're going to give you the Sizzle mix, J.SIZZLE on the ones and twos. And that will be a salute and a homage to some of our veterans. It'll be a get down and boogie time. The same thing he was doing earlier with the veterans. So, Willie, we want to thank you, man, for coming in and just giving a little bit of your time because – look, bruh, you weren't supposed to do this, so I appreciate you. No, I do appreciate you coming in, and I do appreciate the lady behind you who has been a great mentor and a mom to me and a mentor to others and a leader to others throughout her service, not just in the military, but here on the radio station and in the city itself. So we want to thank you for coming out. And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Sizzle here on WGVE, and we're going to get ready to give you a little music time. We're going to give you some of what we talk about when we talk about sports, music, and culture. You're listening to The Sizzle here on WGVE 88.7 FM.
You're listening to The Sizzle on WGVE 88.7